So, welcome to this episode of the Founder Speak podcast in collaboration with Culturenomics with Arjun. Joining me on the yellow table, which is what we're calling it now, is Darrell. Darrell is co founder of CapBay. And CapBay, as Darrell explained to me, is a supply chain financing platform which obviously targets micro and small businesses. Uh, what countries are you in?
So currently we operate out of Malaysia,
You operate.
but we have offices in Singapore and Thailand.
All right. But
Yeah.
what I should say first is welcome.
Yes, yes. So thanks so much for having me, Arjun. I mean, it's a real pleasure. I've seen some of your podcasts. I think it's really interesting, the reach that you have as well as, the topics
Well,
that you
thank you
touch
for
on.
that. Thank you for that. But unlike my podcasts, which tend to be about the business and tend to be about the markets and how businesses competing and differentiating, this one comes with a bit of a twist, right? This is more around Darrell and Darrell's journey as a founder, right? So, Darrell, I'm going to start with a very simple, open question, right? Which is, I think, a very simple question. Three parts to it, right? Firstly, how did you become a founder? So, what happened? Where did the magic sort of happen and you became a founder? Second part of the question is, since becoming a founder to today, paint a little bit of a picture in terms of your journey, right? So, what milestones as a founder have you hit? Growing your team, uh, uh, establishing offices, learning new skill sets, etc., etc. And while you're actually painting that journey, it'd be interesting if you could give me a couple of instances, incidents, events, milestones, which have had a profound impact on you as the founder you are, right? Because I think every founder goes through a journey. They're not the same, right? And people are different when they start and they evolve as they go along, right? So I'd be very interested to. By answering those questions, you'll leave enough on the table for me to ask the second or third question.
Yep,
And
yep.
we're together for about 12 minutes to, 10 to 12 minutes. So it's a short
Yeah.
chat. But over to you. Table's
Yeah.
yours.
All right. Thanks so much, Arjun. So a little bit about myself. So tackling the first part. So I've been in finance for about 12, 13 years, ranging from being a regulator with the Central Bank of Malaysia, spent a bit of time in management consulting, and also did investment banking in Singapore with one of the large investment banks. There I was raising equity for companies across Southeast Asia, IPOs, rights issues, and so on. So then, how that led me to my startup journey was how I personally actually, when I was growing up, I was not really my family was not really have their own business and all, but I always sort of like doing something to build on my own. Because all this while I learned stuff in university, was more of like in a large corporate kind of setup, more towards risk management, and never really had that leap of faith. I never really had the opportunity to take that leap of faith until CapBay came along. Having that risk management mindset, I think it was quite counterintuitive, but I think that's something that personally I felt very fulfilling, and I definitely have not looked back since. Um,
So that was the start of the journey.
yeah, yeah, and then
So
how that led me to CapBay. So CapBay, as you mentioned earlier, we're supply chain finance, and we still have the peer-to-peer financing license. So one of the interesting things is that this idea was actually back when I was doing a master's thesis. One of my professors inside business school actually gave me a list of topics, and all these were very new to me. Being haven't really been in the commercial world, and the one that really resonated with me was peer-to-peer financing. So this was a decade ago, and now I'm actually quite happy to say that we've done quite a lot in P2P financing, and actually the company actually broke records in being the first and fastest to reach 1 billion in terms of financing ringgit in a short span of 3 years. So I think, and then moving on to the second part of your question, which I think maybe as how consultants would like to do it, I think I just want to give the key takeaway. So I think for me is never discount the conversations or the things that you learn along your whole life journey. And that has also been what I've kept and stuck throughout my whole entrepreneur journey, because the people that you meet, the people that you talk to, from all walks of life, with different experiences, all these are all nuggets of wisdom that you can have, that you can actually use for your own business. It could all be from maybe a problem statement that you can translate into your own business, or being having a new business idea, or even some of the concepts that you learn from different industries that you realize, oh, why not we do it in our business? So I think all in all, having those conversations, sharing those experiences really matters a lot.
It does, and it's very interesting. So what I find very fascinating about your story, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try and see the funny side in this, right? Regulator,
Yeah.
investment banker, consultant. Arguably the three least entrepreneurial functions,
Exactly.
backgrounds that one can have, right?
Exactly.
So arguably, and this, let me pose that as a question. You practically had to rediscover yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, what was that journey like? So, what did you go through? Because, once
Mm-hmm.
you've done those three jobs, let's be honest, we have muscle memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, our
Yeah.
muscle memory defaults to what we've trained ourselves to do historically.
Yes.
So, how did you go about rediscovering yourself? And
Mhm.
what did you use? What tools? Was it people, mentoring? What did you use that find that rediscovery, or you didn't have to? Maybe you didn't, and maybe I'm just making a big deal about it.
Yeah, no, so I think you touched on quite a few things. So I think maybe I'll start on maybe the reason or the why. I think for me, there's really just an itch. So I think, being in banking, you spend 90, 100 hours, on your work. But sometimes to me, I found that maybe I could translate that in building, our own business and own personal development. So that actually got me started. And for me, because I'm a Malaysian, so I thought way better the place to start where my roots are, which is back in Malaysia. So that kind of got me started, and of course, like what you said, it was a very hard to switch that mentality. I think every bone, every part of me, just like it's all towards like risk management and all. But I did have like co-founders who had different kind of hats, who had more of a, so it was a bit of a culture shock as well. I think typically you prepare a lot, make sure you've done your analysis, and then you make a decision. Whereas a lot of times in startup and all, you just got to make do with what you have. There's no perfect information. If you even Amazon CEO has also said that if you're making a decision with more than 80% of facts, I think you're making it too late. So all these conversations that I have with other fellows co-founders in Malaysia got me going in terms of the entrepreneurial journey.
So how many? You're a team of three. How many co-founders are there?
4 co-founders.
Four co-founders.
Yeah.
So are you the yang to their yin?
I would say so, actually.
Right.
So I play, sometimes I play the devil's advocate. Sometimes they have like very big brand ideas, and then I'm sometimes the one playing the devil's advocate.
So
like
how does
saying,
that dynamic play out? So how, because that it inherently creates some level of tension, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so how do you cope with that tension? How have you learned to cope with that tension?
Yeah, so I think definitely a mix of like give and take. I think ultimately we always agree to disagree and then just move on, because I think what's important is like having that cohesiveness. You may not agree with that current position then, but like once you've decided, and that's the best course of action, then we just take and go along with it.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, right? So I think there are 3 points, if I may actually take this away. So it's better to speak your mind than not.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Learn the fact that not every argument needs to go your way.
Yes.
Right. So, as you said, agree to disagree. But then once you've agreed to disagree,
Full
full speed
full
forward,
commitment.
right? And
Yes, that's how.
I think that's very interesting, because a lot of, one of the biggest reasons why Starbucks one of the startups fail is because of co-founder challenges, right? If you go to so many reports, it'll be in the top 4 or 5 reasons for why, and to me, a lot of these founders and young co-founders, they don't realize the importance of that journey that you just sort of painted, right? That 3-step approach. And I think you just need to keep reminding yourself every day.
Yeah.
So, conscious of time, what's the advice that Darrell will give every new founder starting a business? 3 things.
Okay. So maybe just latching on to what you said earlier in terms
Right.
of like the 3-step process for entrepreneurial journey. I think firstly, I think it's also having that emotional maturity.
Agreed.
I think having to agree to disagree and just move and stick with that, I think needs a lot of emotional maturity. So you have to think of the bigger picture. Put ego aside. These are people that you're going to work with, for a few years. So it's always good to have that emotional maturity when you're making decisions. Secondly, I think going back to the key takeaway that I wanted to say was on how it's important to be fully engaged with the conversations that you have with people from all walks of life, from all different sectors, young and old. I think there's always nuggets of wisdom that you can learn from them. And thirdly, I think it's based on resilience. Entrepreneurship is not an easy task,
It is.
as
Resilience is very
especially having been, I would say, cushy, but where corporate jobs tend to be.
Let's put it this way: they're more predictable.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You know what you expect. 2-3 years, you get promoted and so on. Startup, you never know. In 2-3 years, you might not even have a company left because startups fail. So I think that resilience point is also very important.
No, Darrell, I'll just say one thing. I'm no judge of person, but I think you've got the right attitude and the right persona. Even the way you take this conversation, I'm very impressed with the fact that
Thanks so
you
much.
seem like a guy who's talks straight. You talk well. I think you're very good at expressing yourself, which I think is very essential, because at the end of the day, all of this boils down to doing business with people, right? Let's be
Yes,
honest.
it's a
Doesn't matter
people
how
business,
technical,
yeah.
right? It's a people business. So I want to end this by saying thank you and best of luck to yourself and your business and your 3 co-founders, and who knows, our paths might cross each other in the future, right?
Mhm.
I'll try and keep a lookout on what's happening, and maybe there'll be a big announcement when you become the next unicorn in Malaysia. But thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if ever that announcement is made, I'll remember we had this conversation.
Please do. Please do. Right. Thanks a lot,
All
and
right.
enjoy the rest of SFF. Right.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Thanks so
Take
much,
care.
Arjun.
Bye.